The Bahrain Grand Prix saw the return of Formula 1 in 2021, but in classic F1 style, not only did we get to see a drama-packed race, but there was an equal amount of controversy and frustration due to track limits from both the drivers and the fans. Yes, F1 in all its controversy-filled glory is well and truly back. So let's jump in straight away into what actually happened and also answer the question as to whether or not track limits might have cost Max Verstappen a win in the opening race. Now, even throughout preseason testing, there was a lot of talk about how much the drivers were exploiting the track limits, but as far as the race weekend itself, as far as qualifying, any car that didn't have at least one wheel on the curb would be penalized for breaking track limits and have their time deleted. So to make it clear, the track limits were not defined by having at least one wheel on the inside of the white line, it's having at least one wheel on the curb. And to be honest, I actually don't mind this. I think although the curb is beyond the white line, it is still a part of the track, and with how fast F1 cars are nowadays and the amount of energy that they carry through the corner as well, to me the whole keep at least one wheel on the curb rule is actually fair and easy to understand. However, this is where things get a little confusing because for the race, the FIA actually eased the track limits and didn't really monitor the cars going wide at turn 4. Now, this is actually something that the drivers were told on Friday and something that was in the race notes ahead of the Grand Prix that everyone had access to. So here is what the FIA said specifically for the race. The track limits at the exit of turn 4 will not be monitored with regards to setting a lap time, as the defining limits are the artificial grass and the gravel trap in that location. In all cases during the race, drivers are reminded of the provision of Article 27.3 of the sporting regulations. Drivers must make every reasonable effort to use the track at all times and may not leave the track without a justifiable reason. Drivers will be judged to have left the track if no part of the car remains in contact with it, and for the avoidance of doubt, any white lines defining the track edges are considered to be part of the track, but the curbs are not. Should a car leave the track, the driver may rejoin, however, this may only be done when it is safe to do so and without gaining any lasting advantage. At the absolute discretion of the race director, a driver may be given the opportunity to give back the whole of any advantage he gained by leaving the track. So this is where the confusion kicks in, because although they stated that the exit of turn 4 wouldn't be monitored, many of the drivers who had read and understood the race director's notes started taking advantage of this, as they should, by the way, because as a driver and team, you have to take advantage of any rules or loopholes. Hamilton and Mercedes in particular had read the race notes and understood this, and Lewis spent the first half of the race exploiting the rules and going wide. Over on Twitter, the guys from the Late Breaking F1 YouTube channel actually reposted a video of Hamilton exploiting the track limits, and it showed that Lewis went wide for 29 laps before he was warned not to do so. And this is where things get doubly confusing, because Max and Red Bull clearly didn't either fully understand or exploit the race notes, because by the time Red Bull realized what Hamilton was doing, they sent over a radio message to Max asking him to do the same. But then all of a sudden, midway through the race, the FIA seemingly almost changed their minds and now asked all of the drivers, and probably more specifically Lewis, to not go beyond the curb again, because he would be shown a black and white flag as a warning and then given a penalty if he did it again. Now, after the race, Michael Massey did clarify and say that the FIA did not change their mind midway through the race, but to be honest, as a fan, it definitely looked like they did. And the problem is that this leaves everyone feeling frustrated. Lewis and Mercedes were left thinking that they weren't doing anything wrong according to the FIA and hadn't had any issues for the first half of the race, and now all of a sudden midway through, they were told to stop going wide if they did not want to be penalized. And as for Max and Red Bull, they were thinking that, well, we spent half the race missing out on that advantage that Hamilton was having, and then the moment we start going wide, we're told immediately to stop, whilst Lewis had been doing it for 29 laps. Overall, it was a very big mess, because not only do the changes from session to session cause confusion, but it's then difficult to understand why, if this was wrong, why did the FIA not just stop the drivers from going wide immediately instead of clarifying it halfway through the race? However, even after that, the track limits drama between Lewis and Max didn't end there. Now, as far as the Verstappen overtake on Hamilton, the key distinction that I want to make absolutely clear is that it actually had nothing to do necessarily with the track limits at turn 4 and whether or not the drivers in the race were allowed to go wide or not. It is a black and white rule that regardless of whether you're allowed on the curb or allowed to go beyond the curb, depending on what the FIA say before the race, when it comes to overtaking, it cannot be done with the driver going beyond the white line because that is seen as gaining an advantage, and in that situation, the FIA can then give out a penalty if an illegal overtake was made. So it's just unfortunate that an overtake like that happened in a race where track limits were already confusing, but the bottom line is that the two incidents between Lewis going wide at turn 4 and Max overtaking over the white line are two completely separate incidents that just so happen to take place in the same race. Now, as far as the overtake itself, in Verstappen's situation, instead of the FIA letting Max go and then probably giving him a penalty after he would have already crossed the line in first place, the race director immediately got on the phone to Red Bull and told Max to hand the place back to Hamilton and continue fighting. Now, to be honest, watching the race, I actually thought that the FIA did the right thing. Max clearly overtook beyond the white line, and the quicker we get on with it with Max letting Lewis back past, the quicker we can see Max try and pull off another overtake instead of having to worry about a ridiculous investigation after the race. We want to see the race resolved legally out on the tarmac and not 4 or 5 hours after the race is finished, with one driver losing a win because of a post-race penalty. Now, it must be said that this isn't the first time that we've had incidents like this where overtakes were done beyond the white line. At Hockenheim in 2012, Sebastian Vettel overtook Jenson Button with all 4 wheels off the circuit, and although he finished the race on the podium, he was given a 20-second post-race penalty which demoted him down to 5th. Next, at the USA Grand Prix in 2017, on the final lap of the race and fighting for the last place on the podium, Max Verstappen overtook Kimi Raikkonen on the inside of turn 17 with all 4 wheels over the white line, and although he finished the race in 3rd place, he received a 5-second penalty, demoting him down to 4th. And lastly, in France at Paul Ricard in 2019, Daniel Ricciardo also received a 5-second penalty after overtaking Kimi Raikkonen across the white line on the straight. So as far as track limits, I don't think that they cost Max Verstappen the race win, but it definitely did not help that he wasn't able to have that advantage in the early part of the race that Hamilton did. As far as the overtake itself, I personally don't think that the FIA did anything wrong there, and I was happy to see Max give the place back because then it just got us right back into the action, knowing that there was no worry of a penalty, and we could just enjoy the fight between Lewis and Max for the race win all the way to the checkered flag. However, when it comes to the changing of track limits from session to session, and then even a really strange decision to almost go back on what they decided in the middle of the race, I think it's confusing for the fans, it's confusing for the commentators, and most importantly, it's confusing for the drivers. Looking ahead, it's very interesting that the next race will be at Imola because when we went there last year, once again there was a lot of talk yet again about track limits and drivers going wide and exploiting the track. I think the next race will be a great test for the FIA because no doubt they will be under heavy scrutiny as they always are. It seems to me that there is a lot of pressure, I'm sure, from the drivers because they just want to go wider and wider because of course that allows them to go quicker. But honestly, in my opinion, I think the FIA just need to almost put the drivers in their place and stay firm on the fact that they must keep their cars within the curbs of the track and therefore within the limits of the track as well. In qualifying, their times should 100% be deleted if they go beyond the curb, and as for the race, just try to keep it consistent and don't have any ambiguity in the rules as to whether or not the drivers can spend half a race driving basically off the track to help them go faster or help them save tyres. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely room for interpretation because unexpected things do happen in races. Drivers lock up and go wide, drivers make mistakes, and drivers go wheel to wheel into corners. But I think carrying that consistency across the whole weekend and being firm with the drivers that track limits are track limits, and as the best 20 drivers in the world, part of the challenge of F1 is to keep it on the tarmac, and that's what the best drivers should be able to do. Either way, the first race delivered drama, excitement, controversy, and the one thing I can say for sure knowing Formula 1, this will definitely not be the final time we talk about track limits, but if the racing stays this close throughout all of 2021, then I can't wait to see what happens next. So guys, that is my thoughts on the Lewis Hamilton-Max Verstappen track limits drama. In the end, I don't really think that it cost Max the win, to be honest. I think he went for that one move, and after that his tyres, or the best of his brand new tyres, were probably gone. But yeah, that's just what I think. Let me know what you guys think in the comments box below in terms of the track limits, the Lewis versus Max battle, and just the first race of the season in general. Now, I hope you did enjoy this video, and if you did, then don't forget to drop a like and smash that subscribe button to support the channel. And guys, I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.